Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of HBHA Lore, HBHA's original podcast series where I, Mike Margulies, interview different people from HBHA's past and present. I'm thrilled to have a wonderful guest with us today for this episode. She is both an HBHA alum from the class of 2006, so her 20-year reunion is coming up at the end of this school year, and she is a proud HBHA parent of three HBHA students. Kaley Wajcman, welcome to HBHA Lore.
Hi, Micah. Thanks for inviting me.
I am absolutely thrilled to have you. We will have plenty of time to get into HBHA stories, memories, and thoughts, but I always like to start by talking about whoever I'm talking with, what they're up to today. So, what do you do career-wise? What do you do, Kaley?
So after HBHA, I went and got a bachelor's in fine arts, and I then went on to get a master's in clinical art therapy. So I was when I graduated, I was unsure. I really thought I was going to lean towards like nursing. I knew I'd probably land somewhere in the helping profession. And I'll kind of get into that more about how I really ended up honing in on the art therapy part. But I got a master's in art therapy, and I've been a practicing art therapist in a variety of capacities and wide range of kind of community settings and clinical settings. I worked with older adults. I've done a lot of partnerships with a lot of community organizations through grants that kind of want to be able to add, let's say, arts and mental health into their programming. So it's really opened the doors with a lot of really unique experiences through community grants and partnerships. Worked at Children's Mercy for a while, and then more recently, over the past couple of years, I started a private practice right here in Leawood. So I'm like right down the school, right down the street from the school, and kind of get to drop my kids off at school and then hop on over to work. So it's been a really fulfilling experience being able to like bring art therapy, I feel like, to my community. And again, like I said, a variety of capacities, worked at Village Shalom for a little bit. So again, bringing my skills and talents, things that I really, got to hone during my years at HBHA, and that strong love for like giving back to my community. Again, like right here to Overland Park.
That is really cool. So, is the private practice, is that what you do like exclusively now, or are you still working with
I
the
do.
other? Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I do it exclusively. And then I really still like that kind of forward-facing community outreach component. So I've really started to branch out like the past couple of years, trying to kind of just feel like I still have like an arm in the community again. So whether it's organizations that find out about the work that I do and want to be able to like again integrate the type of work that I do into their, let's say, program. So I'll kind of do like again, for a while I was doing a community partnership with like the Arts Council of Johnson County that had a community grant that was kind of part of like COVID relief money, for arts and mental health specifically for Johnson County. So that again, like that was like a 2-year stint, COVID relief money where they're like, we want to help integrate like a lot more kind of money and efforts and energy into arts and mental health, specifically to Johnson County. So like, we heard about you and we know the kind of work that you're doing. Like, do you want to be a part of this partnership? So those kind of exciting pop-up things just always get me excited. It keeps the work that I do really diverse and gives me an opportunity to really just kind of hone the type of work that I'm doing, the experiences that I have in the community, and then having my private practice really, again, allows me to be able to bring people into my space, the work that I do, and into the walls of like what I'm trying to build.
That is really cool. I gotta confess, art therapy is a term, like I feel like I roughly know what it is, but I don't
Sure.
actually think I know, and I'll bet a lot of people listening don't know really exactly what it is. I know it's using art to heal in some way and helping
Absolutely.
the people you're working with. But could you just talk a little bit more? Because I think it's a fascinating
Yeah.
idea just
Well,
about some of the
yeah, I'm glad
specifics
you
of what you
asked.
do.
Sure. So art therapy is a master's level profession. It's an integrated mental health field. So it's really like what I tell people, like the marriage between like traditional talk therapy, but integrating art making into that process. So it's kind of really not relying only on like the verbal self-expression part of like what you would imagine talk therapy to be like, which really opens the doors for people who have limited verbal capacity, right? Like if you are in late stage dementia and you really are struggling with words, and verbal communication, and even more so self-expression. Again, the art making part of our right brain is really what helps to kind of like unlock a lot of other experiences for a lot of us that are like very much myself, like right brained people. And so it really integrates well into a lot of different community, like I would say, or like it really integrates itself well into a lot of populations because art therapy itself, sometimes people hear art and they think like, oh, it's for kids, but the profession itself spans the lifespan. So it's not just for kids. Um, I myself have worked with like older adults. I've done community outpatient mental health. I do a lot of kids, teens, young adults in my practice. But you'll find art therapists in a variety of settings, both clinical and non-clinical as well. So, I'm not, I tell families like I'm not doing assessments, I'm not diagnosing. It's really like I have people that come to me saying, listen, like my kid, my teen, has tried traditional talk therapy and it's just like it's not working, it's not for them. It feels kind of just stale, or maybe it's just like tiring for them,
Yeah.
like sitting and talking with a therapist. So they're like, we just really feel like art therapy will be better for them. It's hands-on. Or I have some people that come and they're like, I really don't know what I need, but I just feel like I need to be doing. I'm a maker, I'm a creative type. I need to like process this some other way. Again, like kind of accessing that right brain, creative, self-expressive side. So it's a really, I would say over the past few years, it's really taken off where I think we recognize in the mental health field, especially that traditional talk therapy is not the be all end all, and we need to kind of adapt the types of mental health opportunities and just in general, like access to mental health, for all types of learners, thinkers. And so, yeah, I'm eager to kind of be a part of what I feel like is still a new, budding profession somewhat. But really I feel like my biggest goal is like closing that gap in access to care and what we like provide in the community.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that it's really, like you said, it's a budding field in a way. I would imagine that'll probably continue to grow like quite a bit in coming years, just as people gain more
Yeah.
awareness of mental health and mental health issues, and people tend to be more proactive now about trying to address those. And like you said, it's set up in a way that can help people in non-traditional ways, or it could supplement or complement traditional talk therapy. It sounds really amazing what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, one of my other passions is I work with a lot of adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so there's a lot of traditional, I'm saying it with air quotes, traditional therapists and counselors, that don't feel equipped to support this community. They just don't have the tools, or again, if somebody doesn't have the traditional, again, air quotes, like, verbal skills that to kind of meet people where they're at. And so art therapists are really just great at thinking outside the box, thinking on our feet, really just trying a lot of, okay, if you can't use scissors this way, we're going to try to like, cut or manipulate the paper that way. And so again, like always thinking on your feet, thinking outside the box. We have all kinds of art tools and media like at our fingertips, which is just so energizing to me. And so I feel like nothing is off limits when it comes to like how can I support somebody where they're at, or adapt whatever I'm doing again to be able to support them to feel successful, or to be able to express what it is that they're experiencing, or to tell that story, or to help give them a voice. So it energizes me, and so I feel like again it's kind of at this point, like you said, in the community with awareness on how do we help support all people, through the lens of mental health, that it's yeah, I think people definitely talk about mental health more openly,
Yeah.
especially kids and teens. And so, yeah, it feels neat to kind of be a part of this like trajectory of like where and how we talk about mental health.
That sounds really cool. Obviously, you're doing a lot of art as part of your career. Do you also enjoy doing art just in your free time as a hobby, or do you feel like you're all arted out by the end by the end of the day doing art therapy?
Um, yeah, it shows itself in funny ways. I think I connect and I ground myself by doing anything with my hands.
Mhm.
And so I think that identity as, again, air quotes, like an artist is something I still struggle with. Again, I'm a fine artist. And so as a bachelor in fine arts, like I was like, sometimes I feel like a jack of all trades and a master at none, because you have to kind of dabble in all the media. And so when
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh, are you an artist? I'm like, it's not like I'm sitting here with like a canvas, like chugging away at some like painting, but I feel like there is a capacity of like I'm constantly making or doing, whether it's like working in the yard, again, just like always things with my hands. The great part about Zoom is I feel like I can show that I'm dressed from the waist up, but like I have like paint pants on now because I was like painting a room in our house. Because yeah, I just feel like there's always a part of me that feels like I need an outlet. I need somewhere where I'm putting that. Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's always something where I'm like doing something. This room in our house I really love because it's kind of our art room for our kids. And so again, it's just like a little hub of a creative zone. And so I feel like it just kind of helps to kind of create that message in our own home of like, we have lots of unfinished projects, and I think that's okay. Just somewhere to dabble and feel like it doesn't have to always look
That's what
highly
parenting and
finished.
teaching is all about. Having a lot of unfinished
Yeah.
projects you're juggling out all at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah, that idea of feeling like I have a lot of different options of things to go back to. And that creative part of me, like, as soon as I scratch that itch, then I'm like on to the next thing, and that's okay. So, I want to try this, I'll try that, and then all right, on to the next. And I don't know, I'm curious about things. And
Yeah,
so as a creative, I'm like, I want to explore it, and then all right, I'll try something new.
that makes
So
perfect sense to me. Let's wind the clock back a little bit. Not too well. It's over 20 years now, which
it's wild because I
I know.
think I don't know
I
about you. I do,
also
and you feel so like I still feel 17 or 18.
that is, I think, a
Yeah.
recurring theme. And I know I was thinking the other day. I graduated in 2008, so 2 years after you, and I was like, I guess I have my 18-year reunion coming up at the end of not that that's a specific
Yeah.
number or and it's kind of a random number, but you've got 20 years at
Yeah.
the end of this. So let's start right as I mentioned at the top that you're both an alum and also a current parent. And I do want to talk about kind of both of those different sides of that coin. But let's start with your days as a student. So first of all, were you a K through 12 student? Did you join
I
later?
was. Yeah,
Okay.
I joined in kindergarten and I was at the HBHA for all 13 years.
Okay, so you were what we deem an HBHA lifer. Um,
Lifer.
and not just you, but you have two older siblings, yes, correct?
I do.
Who also graduated. Did they both graduate from HBHA as well?
They both did. Yeah, both of my older brothers, Josh and Danny, both graduated from HBHA in class of 2000 and class of 2003.
All right, so we've got a whole multi-generational Weitzman saga going on here at HBHA, which is great. So just thinking broadly about your experience as a student at HBHA, what are some things that kind of jump out at you? It could be specific memories or sports teams you were on or a specific class, really anything. But when you just think back about your time there as a student, what are some things, especially, let's say you were talking to someone who didn't know that much about it. How would you kind of describe them, your experience there as a student?
I mean, I feel like one theme that I really reiterate either to like inquiring parents or even just kind of newer HBHA parents, um, that I'm proud to see that to continue. What I'm proud to see continue is just really the individualized educational experience. I was not I wouldn't say I wasn't highly academic, but I was not an A plus student. Math and science were not my strong suit. I was, not a left brain person as we talk about and so math and science were not my strong suit. And I had teachers that, because of the smaller class sizes that really just kind of could hone in on the way that I was learning in like that gap between, okay, here's how I'm teaching it. Here's where I feel like this student is like, it's not working or it's not clicking for them. Let me spend some time and kind of reteach it to how they could learn it. And so, I mean, teachers that are still at the HBHA, like I will call out, Todd Clower, Julie Pellman, there was another one, Lois Cohn, she's not there anymore, but just phenomenal teachers that really kind of taught to where and how my brain learned. And it was not like, here's the material, take it or leave it. But it was people that really, again, taught to how I was learning and kind of like saw me for the student I was. Because there was just only so much my brain was going to absorb. We know when you're 15 and 16, and this is, I was not going to be a mathematician and I was not going to be a scientist. But it was important information. And for me to feel successful, they wanted to work with me to kind of help me learn the material. So again, that individualized experience of, again, teachers that knew me well enough to say, I see how you learn, and I want to help kind of meet you where you're at. And so that was phenomenal. I think that is, again, just a trend that's continued for my own three kids and throughout my HBHA experience, again, of teachers just really knowing their students and how they learn and being willing to go that extra mile to meet with them before school, meet with them after school, again, and to like teach to their learning style, create such an individualized learning experience that helps kids, helps, students, really helps students thrive and feel successful. Um, because again, like this funny gap of like kids feeling connected to the material they're learning, but also having this natural gap of like, when am I ever going to use this? Right? Like very valid.
Yep.
Right. And I'm exactly, when am I ever going to use this? Um, but again, like teachers just, this is just kind of part of curriculum, but also I'm going to make it fun or I'm going to teach it in a way that you can understand it so you feel successful. So again, that individualized attention, I feel like was something that really stuck with me. Um, and another thing I feel like that just kind of stood out was, I would say like also like opportunities. Like maybe I'm jumping ahead of question, but like my
No.
favorite glory years, a bunch of us all talk about it, HBHA was back when
Yes.
HBHA had like what is now like the CrossFit rooms at the
Uh-huh.
JCC. And it was like I was doing journalism and newspaper, and the art room was down there, and Miss
Yes.
Meltzer's classroom. And Miss Meltzer's another great teacher. I spent a lot of time with Miss Meltzer.
There was the
Um,
triumvirate of there was Melts teaching Hebrew down there, the art room, and then Mr. Dimbert's
uh-huh.
journalism lab all
Yep.
down there, and it's all been supplanted by a bunch of people working out now. But
Exactly. And I spent so much time down there. I mean, it was phenomenal. And those were just the best, middle school, high school years at HBHA. I mean, there's no windows down there either. There's no daylight. And sometimes you
no.
just, when HBHA was at Sarachek, I think it was like an '04, like, and we were like, they were playing it, I think, over like the intercom, maybe. I believe.
Uh-huh.
And so I remember
Sure.
all of us like piling into like Mr. Dimbert's classroom down there, and they were playing like the Sarachek tournament in '04, '03 or '04. So again, it was just like such a great, I felt like hive, really. I was trying to think of like the exact word of it, but like incubator slash hive of like opportunities and
Yeah.
experiences. Hanging out with Kelly Reichman and Miss Meltzer and being on the journalism staff and then yearbook staff. Again, like experiences, opportunities, but also just really enriching experiences that I don't think that I would have taken advantage of or felt that I was like, again, air quotes, but like qualified for
Yeah.
in a much larger school, because there would have been other students, that I felt like I would have probably measured myself against,
Sure.
but
Do you
yeah,
remember
having those.
what your journalism and yearbook role were?
Okay, so yes, journalism. I was the arts and entertainment editor. I think I even had Derek Hale maybe for 1 year. I can't, maybe he was kind of phasing out right as
Uh-huh.
Seth Dimbert was coming in, and I still remember how to lay out some things in InDesign. And to this day, I can always like pinpoint a good layout or a bad layout, and it
Oh yeah.
drives me nuts. So I was arts and entertainment. So I remember trying to like call Mix 93.3 to get interviews, before and after concerts. And I'm like, I'm just a little girl from a Jewish day school. Can I please
Did you
interview
manage
you
to land
about?
any?
Well, actually, it was right when 95.7 like was also changing its station. I think they
Z
kind of just gave me,
95.7.
yeah, see that right. So they changed that. I think they kind of gave me some like blanket. Here's our like press release. Take from it whatever you want to. So there was a lot of that, but I guess it was just like a fun experience. I did the arts and culture or arts and entertainment or something like that for journalism. And that was again, I wish we could bring it back, but like HBHA's newspaper was printed.
Oh
So
yeah.
I remember it would be so fun on Fridays. We would all kind of like sit in the hallways. Everybody would get the printed copy and everyone's just like sitting and reading the newspaper.
The Academy Voice.
The Voice. Uh-huh.
Yes, the Academy Voice.
Yeah.
Do you know what its name was before it was the Academy Voice?
Hashofar.
Oh, maybe, but there was even one before that. Maybe then there was one in between, which it was also at one point the Null Street Journal, which is just fantastic.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. So the HBHA used to have one of my, it might have been school wide, but it was called the Hashofar. And
Uh-huh.
I even remember there was one like maybe it was like for Adar, but people miss it. They called it like the Ha Ha Shofar. So it was
Ooh,
all like bogus articles.
amazing.
And
Mhm.
so it was like a prank, and everyone's like, what? Like it was all these just ridiculous articles that were not factual. And everyone's like, ha ha, it was the ha ha shofar. But yeah, we had the Academy Voice, and that was just so much fun to like get to read all the articles and sit around. I don't know, sometimes my memories of HBHA, I think back, I'm like, it seems like Saved by the Bell. Like, was that a Saved by the Bell episode?
Yeah, that
Or
would
was
be a,
that
maybe at the end I'll do a trivia round with you of I'll toss out some event that happened. You tell me was that a Saved by the Bell episode or was that
And I know
something
my
that
Saved
happened in
by the Bell,
2005?
yeah, exactly. I know my Saved by the Bell trivia, so I would hope I would get this one right. But yeah,
I,
those are just, I know, great fond memories of it. I don't remember what I did for yearbook. I can't remember
That's
now.
okay. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that you also were a pretty active athlete at HBHA. And I know that one of the years that I was there, when I was in high school, and like I said, I graduated 2 years after you, so we were in high school at the same time, was the girls' basketball team had an utterly dominant season and also won the tournament in Baltimore. Were you on that team that did that? You know what I'm talking about?
I am, and I trying to remember. I don't remember if we got first. Ugh, my gosh, anybody listening to this is gonna be like, "When do you can't remember?" And I have pictures of it still hanging like in my childhood bedroom, I think. But like with my HBHA Letterman letters. But I can't remember if we got first or second. Oh my God, my teammates are gonna shoot me.
It's
Because I
okay.
remember us like I remember us holding up at number one, but there was one year I think we got first and one year we got second. And I think there was one year I like had suited up a lot, but probably didn't play as much as others. Again, another testament to HBHA experiences, where a lot of things, are options and available to you, even if you're not the most star athlete or, the um, top of the
So what sport
educational
did
ladder.
you played basketball and
I did,
soccer?
yeah, I did basketball and soccer. When it came to athletics, yeah. When it comes to like other academics and things like that, I definitely took advantage of things that were like well beyond my, well out of my league, but like, why the heck not? But yeah, soccer and basketball, and I loved it. I lettered in soccer all 4 years.
All right.
In basketball, I was able to play varsity, sophomore, junior, senior year.
Very nice. Any particular memories from either soccer or basketball that stick with you these years? I realized one of them we thought we had a memory, but we were unsure when when we did. But any memories? It could just be from a random game, from a
Yeah.
tournament, anything that kind of jumps out at you.
Yeah. I really liked early morning practice. I
Oof.
thought it was just like a fun experience
How
of
early are we talking?
before school. So early morning practice, we would
Yeah.
practice before school started, shower up and get ready at the J. And then there was a whole kind of parent volunteer crew that would maybe put out bagels and granola bars. And that was a fun time. I think it just really being able to um, I guess make memories with a lot of the people that you kind of grew through those experiences, right? There's sometimes I look back on high school and I'm like, it's amazing what I was able to accomplish. Just from the sheer capacity of like now parent brain, you're like, oh my gosh, like having a job and taking care of 3 kids. And it's like, I can't believe I was able to like cram for 6 tests and have basketball practice and then fit in volunteer hours and then just the hours of the day were
Yeah,
so
no, and they
different.
still do a lot too, right? I mean, still, I'll have students of mine, and I'm like, when do you guys sleep? Because they're taking like 3 AP classes, and they all dance or play soccer or basketball, and they're in the play, and they're
Right.
involved in their youth group, and I'm like, this is a lot of time.
Right.
I mean, I'm impressed, but also, take a nap.
Yeah, I mean, my days just felt so full in such a joyful way because it was like with people I just loved spending time with. I remember just like laughing a lot, and so the days were full and there were definitely probably hard moments. I was not the type of person, at least I don't remember, sitting and crying about a grade or anything like that. But, like to make my years at HBHA feel really full in a
Yeah.
really enriching way, both through experiences and, people I was fortunate to like, be in a class with. We had a really big class. My HBHA class, we didn't graduate with quite as many, but we had, 40 something
Oh my
kindergartners.
word, that is a
Yeah.
large kindergarten class.
Yeah.
That
And
might be a record, honestly. I'm gonna try to dig into the archives and see what the
okay.
biggest 40 kids in the kindergarten class.
I think more than it might have been 42, even up to 44 at one point, but they had to divide us into 3 classes. We had like A, B, and C group. And we still graduated with about, I think, 23.
That sounds fun.
But there was a period of time where they just like had Nancy Franks move up with our class because
Sure.
it was like,
Like Mr.
yeah.
Feeney in Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
Just
So
traveling
she,
along with the.
I think Nancy Franks, I think we had her 3 times, maybe. I think it was like third, fourth, and fifth or something, but or she would just kind of like hop in. But we definitely had Nancy Franks a couple times because it was just like, just stay with them. Like it was just such a big class. So
That's
again,
the
like
ideal number of times to have her as your teacher. So that works perfectly.
yeah, and it was
Um,
so wonderful. I mean, again, talking about like HBHA lore, getting to see a lot of teachers this past year at the HBHA dinner. I mean, there's something magical, I feel like, about HBHA when, to see Miss Allspaw and Laura Hewitt and
oh yeah.
Nancy Frank. I mean, these are teachers at HBHA, something about it. They just don't age. Everybody looks wonderful. And it just,
They got crystallized in your mind and they stayed in the same way for 30 years.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Did you go on? So one of the things HBHA does is, right, we have a lot of trips. And obviously kind of the most iconic and definitive trip is now we have the Jewish Heritage Trip. Back when we were students, we had March of the Living, a comparable trip. Did you go on the March of the Living?
Yeah, March of the Living was my senior year. So HBHA was pretty consistent doing it every other year. And
Yeah.
so it fell during my senior year.
Yeah, that makes sense because I also went my senior year, which would have been 2 years later,
Yeah.
right? So now we have, for people who don't know, the Jewish Heritage Trip is a trip where juniors and seniors go to Poland, where they see concentration camps and learn about the Holocaust, and then after that they go to Israel and have like a joyous week celebrating in Israel. And it's really just kind of this all-encompassing learning about the Jewish experience. And we've actually now we do the Jewish Heritage Trip, which is kind of our own designed version of it. But 20 years ago we did the March of the Living, which is an international trip, but the same basic idea. So it's kind of really the capstone experience, I would say, at HBHA. So I was curious your perspective on it, what you remember from it, and kind of what stuck with you from going on that.
Yeah, what was special for me, especially going to March of the Living, is I was going to be spending a year abroad, my freshman year. So I studied for a year in Israel after I graduated. So I think it felt kind of like the highlight in that unique experience was not going to, end right there because having had been my senior year, there's that feeling of because it happens right around springtime.
Mhm.
So it's kind of the end of the senior year
Yeah.
for all of us. So it was a special experience to kind of like end our run, together, so to speak, with my classmates and really have that meaningful experience together and on a personal level to feel like this was going to be something I could like continue and that this feeling didn't have to feel like it was fleeting or I had to like capture all of my thoughts and feelings and emotions, during this like 1 week in Israel, but like, I was going to be returning, just a few months later. Um, and so, yeah, my connection to Israel, I think definitely was really shaped by my years at HBHA and feeling confident in my Hebrew skills, my ability to use Hebrew. I'm a grandchild of Holocaust survivors, so on a personal level, being able to participate in that trip was, going to be moving and meaningful on so many levels and was really something that stuck with me for months, after. It was something I had the opportunity to talk about again at my synagogue. They had invited anybody who had wanted to come share some of their experiences. And so, like any other really moving experience, it's something that just takes a while to soak in. And so I felt well prepared to go on it. But nothing prepares you to see and experience like, what you do or get to, experience on those kinds of trips. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I
it's
mean I agree from my own experience. I think what you said there, I would 100% echo, right? That idea of that you spend a lot of time learning about it and you are as prepared as you can be, but then actually going and experiencing it firsthand, especially like doing it with it would be one thing, going with your family or even just going by yourself or with a random group, but going with classmates that you've been with for all that time, it really is kind of an incredible culminating experience. That I think you kind of worded that really well there. And I hear similar things from people today who still go on the Jewish Heritage Trip, as kind of this transformative experience. And then it's a bit of whiplash going from, you're going to the concentration camp in
Absolutely.
Poland and it's so somber and so serious. And then the week in Israel, there's a lot of learning, but it's a lot more joyous. Sometimes it coincides with Yom Ha'atzmaut when people are
Right.
there. And so it really is kind of an amazing, unique experience that we've gotten to have.
Yeah,
And so you said you spent your year after graduating high school in Israel. What,
correct.
what was that like? What did you do during that year?
So I spent a year at it. It was a new Israel kind of gap year program that first year. And I think again, like back to kind of what that college guidance experience was like I wanted to spend a gap year, but I wanted it to have a little bit of, a real mix of learning and spirituality, but not just Jewish learning. I wanted to feel integrated into Israeli society, whatever that could look like. And so I worked a lot with Mr. Clower at the time, trying to find a good year program that would like meet my needs, but wouldn't be strictly academic and not strictly, religious learning. And so originally I was kind of looking towards like a Young Judea year course program and worked heavily with him. And then this kind of newer program came about and it was really geared towards um, it was an all girls program and it was geared towards girls that had had like a day school background or even a public school background. So, could kind of come in at any like entry to mid-level, learning um in, Jewish knowledge, but it wasn't going to be heavily learning or just, heavily academic. And so the name of the program was Machon Mayan and it was through like the Orthodox Union and it was through the OU. And it was in Beit Shemesh at the time. It's now somewhere else. But yeah, I was part volunteering, part learning. And so the community where Beit Shemesh is located has a really large Ethiopian population that has immigrated there. So I would spend some time learning during the day, but then also helping teach Hebrew, believe it or not,
Oh,
for a lot of newly immigrated Ethiopian families.
oh
So,
wow.
like, believe it or not, yeah, like English, me teaching Hebrew, to like these new Hebrew language learners. It was just like a wild experience, trying to teach like basic vocabulary and
Alice would have
nouns.
been so proud.
Yeah, I know, truly it was. But again, just like you're just thrown into this experience of like, okay, I guess we're doing this, right? There was really no like formal curriculum or anything. It was really more of like an aftercare program for these young Ethiopian kids. And it was just like a really joyous experience. But yeah, spending that year abroad, I think really helped me kind of hone in on um, it's like a really great year of like maturing still. I know some people do a gap year later in their kind of college years, but for me, it kind of helped me hone in on like what do I want? Like what am I looking for again, like having come right after March of the Living. It kind of let me ride that high of having gone to Israel and still feeling connected to Israel and wanting like more of that and feeling hungry for more of that experience. Um, so for me, yeah, that gap year came at a great time and really helped, I think, kind of shape. It's where I ended up meeting my husband. Actually, we both met during
Oh,
our year abroad.
you met
Um,
in Israel.
yeah.
And okay, so if you want to get it, that's interesting. I assume he's not from Kansas City originally, is
No,
he?
yeah. So my husband John, he's from New Jersey,
I
and
know
we both
John
met
Bell, a great
during.
basketball player.
Yeah. So yeah, we both met during our gap year. I was not looking to start dating or anything like that, but we both met during our gap year. And at the time, I was like undecided when it came to schools. I had deferred, I believe, to Indiana at the time. But again, like I was trying to find a college that would give me, be located in a town that could support living a Jewish life
Uh-huh.
but maybe had a strong Hillel or a strong, Chabad on campus. And so really trying to figure out like where would that be? Like geographically, where would that be? What kind of college life would that be? And then, having left Israel, I was kind of like, I don't think I really want a traditional college experience. Like I think I just wanted something where I could continue feeling like I had options to continue like Jewish learning. And so I ended up going to Stern College, which I had originally like swore off. I was like, I don't like New York. I don't like New Yorkers. I like, it was like the East Coast is not for me.
Uh-huh.
I'm born and raised in Kansas. And
Sure.
then sure enough, met who is my now husband, who's from the East Coast,
Was he from New
during
York?
our New Jersey, yeah.
Okay, close
So we
enough.
met during, yeah, freshman year. So are both during our year abroad, and he was kind of headed back out to the East Coast, and I was like, all right, maybe the East Coast isn't so bad after all. And applied to Stern College, and then I finished my three, remaining years of college. out at Stern College for Women.
Well, he may have won the battle, but you won the war because look where you guys ended up. I mean, you're right here
I
in
got very
Overland Park.
lucky. Yeah, I got very lucky. I mean, the small town life is definitely a different pace, having grown up on the East Coast, but I love it here. I mean, I really am just so grateful that yeah, I can raise my family here. I don't think, when you're 15, 16, 17, I did not have my life planned out. I was not like, I'm going to marry someone and move back here and raise my family here, but I'm so grateful. I mean, my parents live here. One of my brothers lives here. It's really just such a great, um, I feel way to raise our family and feel connected to the school, be able to share HBHA with them. I mean, give them a taste of what I had, in all the best ways, and definitely be nostalgic about it too.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so what you just said before kind of leads me naturally to my next question, which is not only, as we've talked about, are you a former HBHA student, but you are also now a current parent. So you have three students at HBHA, and what grades are they going into now?
so my oldest, Eliana, she's going into eighth grade. My
That sounds
son,
right.
Noah, yeah, my son Noah is going into seventh grade. Sometimes I forget because they're a grade apart.
Hmm.
Noah's going into seventh, and then Danielle is going into third grade.
All right. I had the pleasure of having Eliana in class last year, and it was a delight. The first Schwartzbard child that I had, and it was wonderful. So I was curious about your perspective. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is because you as many people at HBHA do, you wear many hats, right? You have the former student hat, but now you're also the current parent hat. So I'm curious, what has the experience been like as a parent, and how has it been maybe interesting, especially seeing as, like you said, some of the teachers that you had are still teaching there and maybe teaching your kids. So I'm just curious what the perspective has been like as a parent, if it's made you see aspects of the school differently, just made you think about your time there differently, and just what that experience has been like.
Yeah. I think about it from the moment we were new first parents, as of an HBHA kid to always, it's ongoing rather. I would say in the very beginning, our experience was it was so interesting to recognize that there was so much, this is gonna sound funny, but protocol, because when you're a student you're kind of just living carefree and you're not
I just show
realizing,
up.
yeah, I just show up, and that was the beauty and the blissfulness of being a student at HBHA. If there was an ease to it,
Yeah.
and I was really fortunate to feel that, but also not recognize duh, there's so much other real life, just blood, sweat, and tears that goes into my parents sending us here and keeping the doors open, and parents chipping in to volunteer to drive kids to and from field trips and help coach teams. And so the back end things, I was really, just blissfully unaware about. And that was just the beauty of, me having a really wonderful HBHA experience. Now being a parent, I realize how much of the community part of it really helps, is the life force behind the school, both as a parent and just community involvement and volunteers, alumni, parents that still come back to volunteer. It's such a great, my husband is not even alumni, but he loves being involved in volunteering and helping coach. And I help in the cafe, and I helped coach middle school basketball one year. When there's, let's say, the scholastic book drive, there are so many touch points of where I get to step back into the walls in the building of
Yeah.
HBHA, whether I'm attending a formal program like a Chag Sidor or a Chag Chumash, or just getting to volunteer and help give of my time, um, to be a fly on the wall to your kids' experience of what I was fortunate to experience is just so neat. I mean, especially to see how things have blossomed. The family program has just grown exponentially, and I love that for my kids. I love that for the school. It was a memorable part of my HBHA experience, but the fact that the students now get together as families
Yeah.
weekly and have Shabbat as a school, I think is such a cool experience. And my husband and I, and a lot of other parents love attending Taste of Shabbat just to watch the school come together and celebrate Shabbat together. I mean, there's nowhere else you can have that and all of those elements and those moments again to be a fly on the wall and watching your kid get to make core memories and like quite literally like that integrating into their identity,
Yeah.
of their Jewish pride and their love for Israel and having a community. I mean, a room filled with other Jewish kids and teachers and people that love them and support them and are helping to like shape their identity, like is just such a fantastic experience. I mean, that's not replicated like quite literally anywhere else. And especially just the diverse student body and families of our school, like to see such a wide spectrum of Jewish observance and people coming together is really, again, something that I think is so unique for me to be able to like hope my kids really take with them of like Jewish unity,
Yeah.
and like witnessing that and respect and appreciation for like all different kinds of practicing Jews and Jewish identity. It's just something so special that I think it's, as alumni, I get to I'm really fortunate, to be able to like have, my kids experience what I did, but also get to like witness it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. How has
so
it
yeah.
been seeing them go through some of those touchstone ceremonies, things like the Chag Sidor, Chag Humash, seeing them do it and being like, this was me 30, 40, 35 years
Yeah.
ago. That was me doing that. How has
Uh-huh.
that experience
Well,
been?
it's funny you mentioned that because also I recently found the VHS tapes at my parents' house of like my brothers and like our like Chag Sidor. So to
Oh,
like
here we
go
go.
back and watch some of those and be like, oh, like, all the programs like in the social hall, like there's so many nostalgic moments of what all of those programs and what that space has, how many memories that space holds, for so many
Oh
people.
yeah.
So yeah, I loved seeing like this year, especially, I think it was the Chag Sidor, um, ceremony. Was it Chag Sidor?
Well, for
Chag
your
Chumash.
youngest, maybe Chag Humash, I
For
think
doing that Chag
second
Chumash for
grade. Yeah,
second
Chag
grade,
Humash.
yes.
Mhm.
Where they just like did such a beautiful like multimedia presentation. So like, rightfully so, things have had a technological update, which
Mhm.
is really cool because there'll be like a video slideshow while things are happening, and you get to like again like see a glimpse of like how this, it's not just like, okay, we're giving a chumash, but here's how we're integrating Jewish learning into throughout the year and all these experiences that your kid has had in the classroom. So yeah, again, it's nostalgic, but also watching HBHA kind of morph with the times,
Yeah.
is also a really great and just cool experience to see.
And it's probably also been pretty interesting thinking about kind of your relationship with some of those teachers, right, who you had as teachers, and now again, it's the same person, but different stage of the relationship. Now you know them as, you're the parent of the kid there, and that's got to
Yeah.
be kind of interesting dynamic as well.
Yeah, there have definitely been some teachers. I mean, like I was explaining it to uh, for privacy's sake, for one of my kids who has one of
Sure.
my teachers that I've had. And I was kind of like, listen, like this kid of mine learns how I learn,
Uh-huh.
and so like, here's a way that you can maybe teach to them. And, again, back to that touch point of like teaching to how the student learns, like there's definitely echoes of, my personality, I'm sure, or how I
Hmm.
learn or, just how my brain thinks, and how my kids learn. And so being able to joke with some teachers about that and just saying like, okay, there's, a lot of another little me maybe running around the halls,
Yeah, it's a
but
small version of me that now you'll see. Um,
exactly.
And also, what's cool is, it's not just you. There's many HBHA parents, right, with kids around your kid's age who might not have been in your grade specifically, but maybe a
Sure.
couple years older or younger. Your brother, one of them, right, that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And it's like you guys have like a second generation now of, oh, now we're going through HBHA again, but as parents, as opposed to as students. That's got to be kind of a fun experience.
Yeah, I mean, going through it as parents, as I said, like there was that part of me that was like blissfully unaware of like what it means to get to be a student at HBHA. And so I think it was like one thing in particular was like the protocol for like the carpool line. I was like, what do you mean? We just like isn't it just like a free for all? Like I remember there even being one year where there was definitely two lanes. And I was like,
Sure.
none of that. It was like that's just like the 90s, right? Like they're like, what do you mean?
Any
Like
direction you want, just drive. It just
yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that was just
no, they've
how it
they've
was.
got I don't know how I don't recall how it was when I was younger, but now it's down to a science. I mean, they get those kids in and out of those cars.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so wonderful. And so there's a part of me, there's like where I try to catch myself and like, well, we used to, it's never like that. I'm always happy to see how things are adapting to, how students learn, what's best, especially like, yeah, the classrooms, I would say, right? Like, I think older teaching methods and styles were very, I don't say like cut and dry, but I think, we've like rightfully so, like adapted teaching methods and like tried, educational styles to how students learn and learn best and adaptive seating and enrichment opportunities. And so again, now as a parent, like I love that part of it to see that, okay, it maybe used to be that, everyone sat in the same types of desks and chairs and there really wasn't, an understanding of different cognitive or learning styles in the classroom. And so, right, how are we adapting the learning environment to meet a wide range of learners? And people who, like also like lateral entry students, right? Not everybody comes with any type, not everybody at the HBHA has either strong Judaic background or a Hebrew language background. And so,
Yep.
how do we encourage families to like consider HBHA and help them feel equipped and supported to be able to kind of make that lateral entry and still feel like they're successful, even if they're just switching into HBHA at fourth grade or eighth grade or ninth grade and what that looks like.
Absolutely. Well, Kaley, this has been a delight. Before I let you go, we've covered your career, we've covered your time as a student, we've covered your time as a parent. I like to end each episode with just some kind of fun rapid fire questions. So these
Oh,
you don't have to give an expansive answer, although you can if you want, but just some quick ones, some connected to
I love
HBHA,
it.
some not. So favorite school subject. What was your favorite subject as a student?
Art, for sure.
Okay, that makes sense. It kind of led directly into your career. I noticed a trend because when I talked to Sam Matzel, he was talking about sports, and people tend to the subject you like in school sometimes blossoms into your
Yeah.
career. Um, you shared some memories. We got some high school stuff, but you've been here since kindergarten, you said. So let's dig way back in the memory bank. Favorite random lower school memory that you have from you were a student? Yeah, that might be a tough one. Anything jump out or middle school, but
Yeah.
anything from your
No,
younger
I would say
time?
lower school actually,
Yeah.
and we still always talk about this. HBHA used to have a hot lunch program, a beloved hot lunch program. And so
Oh yeah.
Mondays and Fridays were milk
Dairy.
days,
Oh
Tuesday,
yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday, yep, were meat days. And so there was one time my dad came to lunch with me and we still talk about this, and it was like chicken legs, but like a bunch of little kids weren't going to sit there with like a pulky and eat it. So they were passing them down to my dad. So I remember one time looking over, my dad had like a plate full of like everybody's like random chicken legs that little kids were not going to sit and like chow through a chicken leg. He didn't steal their lunch, of course, but yeah, all these kids, it's just like he was so happy to come to like lunch with me and like I don't know, enjoy
Did you?
the scraps of
Oh yeah.
every
He
other
just
third and fourth grader that was not going to sit and eat their
You
pulky
thought your
in the
dad
middle.
was coming to enjoy lunch with you, but he was actually just coming to feast on apparently 40 kids'
Yeah,
remaining chicken that they were passing out
a
to you.
hot lunch. Yeah, he's like, I'll come for lunch all the time.
Did you have a favorite
Um,
hot lunch meal? One where you're like, oh, it's taco day. This
Pizza
is
day. Oh
pizza
my
day.
God, pizza day was
Monday
always
or
great. And it was like
Friday.
those big, yeah, big square pizzas.
Oh yeah, the
And
square
you would
pizza.
always get chocolate milk. But I was always really annoyed because when it was meat day, you could have like two apple juices or two orange juices. But like when it was dairy day, you could only have one chocolate milk.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. I
Um,
never got to like bring that to the
I
higher
don't I
ups.
don't think that tradition was steeped in Jewish law. I think that may have just been a amount of materials they had on hand. But no, yeah, as soon as you
Cost
said
of
hot
goods.
lunch, I knew Monday, Friday, those are the dairy days. Tuesday through Thursday, the
Yeah.
cheat days.
Yeah, that
Those are
was
good ones.
good.
That's amazing. Favorite field trip you ever went on at HBHA?
Ooh.
March of the Living does not count. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I know that I'm gonna like think of something else, but like one that comes up that like we don't really, HBJ doesn't go to, but I remember, um, oh gosh, I'm like double checking that my answer because like this is the one that like comes up. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously like Exchange City, but the
Oh yeah.
HBJ still does that. They do uh
Biztown? Is that what it?
Biztown.
Yeah.
Uh-huh,
Mhm.
and that's really fun. But we used to go to a place that was like in third grade, I think, I remember with like Mrs. Hewitt called Earthworks.
Amazing that you brought that up because last episode I talked with Mrs. Hewitt and she was telling me about Earthworks. So
Really?
go, yeah,
Oh
oh yeah,
my God.
absolutely.
Yeah, I remember sitting there like picking away at owl pellets, and I thought that was the coolest thing. And it's like, I don't know. Yeah, Earthworks was really cool, and it's so funny because I feel like there's this like '90s lore in Kansas that you're like, where is that place now? Does it even exist?
I don't know,
Like fever dream stuff. You're
well,
like, does
but
yeah.
here's something I learned from her, and this is, this is part of the fun of the podcast is that we can weave together the lore from different people. She told me that she actually not only took students to Earthworks, she was actually one of the people who helped develop the Earthworks educational program. Like
Oh, how
she wrote the
cool.
curriculum for Earthworks.
That doesn't surprise me because I felt like we had little like echoes of like the program. Like I remember dissecting owl pellets a little bit in the classroom, and I remember it was either before or after we went there. It was like, you're gonna get to do this when you go to Earthworks. I remember Earthworks in my head, and there are certain times where I'm like, I have so many random dreams. I'm like, did that really happen? Or was that like there's this place? Does anybody else remember it?
I
Yeah, we went with
swear
our
there
school.
we were exploring the environment. Mrs.
Yeah.
Hewitt was there and you were there. Yeah. Kaylee, this has been so wonderful. It has been such a blast catching up with you, hearing about your time as a student, hearing about your time as a parent, and I hope that everyone else listening had a great time hearing all of your wonderful HBHA stories as we continue to build out HBHA Lore. Bye, everyone.